A boy named Lindsay rides his bike to his middle school. He has money that he plans to use to buy a Spider-Man costume for an upcoming party. At school, he sits behind Stella, a girl he has had a crush on for a long time. During class, they are approached by a police officer named Giovanna, who happens to be Lindsay's mother. She asks about a missing student and instructs all students to report to the police if they hear anything. After she leaves, Lindsay's nose starts bleeding, so he runs to the bathroom. There, two bullies who often torment him demand all his money. As a result, when he returns home, he feels disheartened by what happened and decides to use some of his saved money to buy a cheaper superhero costume. Lindsay then goes to a thrift store and inquires about superhero costumes. The shopkeeper shows him a tight-fitting costume with a cape, claiming it's a superhero from China. Lindsay isn't entirely pleased, but ends up buying it anyway. When Giovanna returns home from work, she sees Lindsay in his costume and refuses to go to the party because he thinks he looks foolish. His mother convinces him that it looks cool and escorts him to the event. There, Lindsay enjoys the party alone and gets to chat with his crush, Stella. However, the two bullies upload a video of Stella walking down the street, claiming it was found on Lindsay's phone, implying he has been stalking her. Embarrassed, Lindsay immediately flees to the bathroom and locks himself in, while all his classmates bang on the door asking him to come out. Frustrated and wishing he could disappear, just before the power outage, he seems to vanish. Later, he is seen leaping out of the bathroom window and heading straight home. The next day, Lindsay wakes up to his dog barking at him. Not paying much attention to himself, he goes to the bathroom to brush his teeth. However, when he looks in the mirror, Lindsay is shocked to see only his cape and his toothbrush visible, with his body missing in the reflection. Lindsay quickly removes his cape. Shortly after, his mother comes in and completely ignores him, indicating that Lindsay is the only one who can see himself. When she looks around, Lindsay quickly writes a note that he went to school early and places it on his bed. Giovanna reads it and stops searching for him. After leaving the room, she calls him. Lindsay answers and assures her that he is okay. Confused about what to do next, he dresses in long sleeves to cover all parts of his body. He then goes to school and sees Stella from a distance, also noticing the bullies who made him angry. So he removes all his clothes and walks into the school invisible. In class, he takes a paintball gun from the bullies and shoots it at a teacher, resulting in the bullies being suspended. Lindsay then goes to the girls' locker room and sees them. Suddenly, a towel falls on him, making his silhouette visible to everyone. Shortly after, his power starts to fade, making him visible again, and the girls. The next day, Lindsay is in his classroom, where a psychologist named Basilite teaches about the mental health of young people. His two friends have run away from home in previous months, so he thinks it's important to understand how young people think. When Lindsay hears his lesson, his hands slowly start to disappear and eventually completely vanish. Luckily, the class ends, and he leaves before anyone can see him invisible. He returns home, covers his entire body, and sees his younger sister Candela in her room. Lindsay asks her to come downstairs while he stares at the wall. Candela becomes suspicious and opens and closes the door, thinking he has left. Lindsay doesn't turn around to check and starts to undress. When he turns back, Candela screams in fear, seeing her brother invisible. Lindsay calms himself and tells her that his costume gives him superpowers. Meanwhile, at the police station, psychologist Basilai collaborates with Giovanna on the investigation of her missing son's case. Giovanna thinks her children might have been kidnapped, but Basilai argues that they are just normal troublemakers among their peers. When Giovanna returns home, Lindsay is still in invisible mode. There she speaks to someone on a phone, revealing that Lindsay has actually been adopted. Lindsay is shocked and heartbroken to hear this, so he leaves the house for the nearest swing. As he swings, Stella comes there and thinks Lindsay is a ghost. Stella doesn't seem scared and asks him to be her friend. He makes a smiley face in the sand to communicate with her, and they both decide to meet again later. After Stella leaves, Lindsay sees a man in the distance staring at him, even though he's invisible. The man then leaves using his cane, indicating that he is actually blind. That night, Lindsay visits Stella's house. Stella is happy to be friends with her invisible friend. They both kiss, but shortly after that, Lindsay's power begins to fade. He quickly runs away before Stella can see his face. A few moments later, Stella is alone in her gymnastics class when a needle pierces her back, causing her to faint. Elsewhere, Lindsay decides to tell Stella that he is an invisible boy, so he goes to her gymnastics class with his dog. When he arrives at the building, he sees a masked man carrying Stella. Lindsay attacks the man, and his dog bites his hand. However, the man manages to escape with Stella. A few moments later, The police arrive at the scene. They find out that the missing child case is not due to escape, but to kidnapping. Stella wakes up in a strange experiment room with her head connected to several cables. Psychologist Basili is there interrogating her. It turns out that Basili is the one who kidnapped his children. They conduct some experiments on Stella and send her to prison. His two missing friends were there before. The next day, Silenzi is seen alone on a beach when suddenly the blind man from the day before appears in front of him. The man answers Silenzi's questions before he can ask them. Apparently, the man can read his mind. When Silenzi asks who he is, the man reveals that his name is Andrage, and he is Silenzi's father. Silenzi doesn't believe Andrage and accuses him of lying. Andrage then begins to tell his story. He used to be just a normal guy from a small town in Russia until there was a nuclear explosion that hit his town. The radiation killed many people and caused permanent changes in their conditions. This mutation made their DNA mutate, giving them super skills like floating, telepathy, invisibility, and some even like Luffy from One Piece. These people were dubbed the Specials and taken to a military camp called the Division to be used as weapons. The Division uses them beyond their capabilities. The greater the strength the Specials use, the weaker their body. Another side effect is that they become infertile, except for Andrage and Silenzi's mother. They then give birth to Silenzi, who becomes the first special child. But right after he is born, they take him away. So the two of them decide to escape with Silenzi, and they succeed. However, people from the Division do not give up and keep chasing them to take the child back. Silenzi's father has the power to read human minds, while his mother has the power to become invisible. Andrage manages to escape with Silenzi, but sadly, his wife is killed by the Division. Realizing that Silenzi is not safe with him, Andrage places him in front of Giovanna's house after reading her mind and making sure that she is a good person. Now, the Division people have discovered that there is a special child living in the area, so they start kidnapping children and testing them to see if they are special. After hearing the story, Silenzi becomes shocked. He almost does not believe it, but Andrage tells him that they do not have much time to talk because the man fishing nearby thinks Andrage is suspicious and wants to call the police. Finally, Andrage gives Silenzi a superhero costume that can turn him invisible along with his body. He then erases the fisherman's memory and leaves. The police arrive shortly after, along with Basili. Giovanna tells him that Silenzi is actually adopted, which makes Basili believe that he might be the special child. He then offers to take Silenzi home. When they arrive at the house, Silenzi sees an injury on his hand, the same spot where his dog bit Stella's kidnapper. He looks at Basili suspiciously and tries to escape. It turns out that Basili has locked all the doors and plans to kidnap him. Silenzi runs into a room, removes his clothes, and turns invisible. He manages to escape while Basili follows him. When they reach the street, Silenzi sees his bully, Ivan, relaxing on his motorbike. He immediately sits behind him and tells him to take off fast, which Ivan quickly does. When they arrive at a safe area, Silenzi reveals himself to Ivan and tells him about their classmates who have been kidnapped. Meanwhile, Stella and her friends see a vent on the ceiling. They climb on each other, and Stella manages to get out. While hiding from the guards, she climbs up a tower and reaches a spotlight. Believing that her invisible friend is looking for her, she draws a smiley face on the spotlight and shines it into the sky, kind of like Batman, but this one is real. Silenzi sees the smiley face and realizes that Stella is trying to send a message. He and Ivan immediately follow the light, but just as they arrive, Stella gets caught by the guards. Ivan causes an electrical malfunction using his paintball gun, while Silenzi sneaks in invisibly. Inside, he sees Basili and one of his men monitoring Giovanna and Andrage, who are now working together to find Silenzi. He goes deeper and knocks out a guard. Using the guard's gun, he threatens another guard to open the cell door where Stella and the others are imprisoned. After freeing them and locking up the guards, Silenzi reveals himself to his friends, shocking them all. The two boys want to escape, but Stella insists on rescuing an old man she saw locked in another room. So she and Silenzi go to save the old man, but it turns out that she brings him straight to the villains and points a gun at Silenzi. Suddenly, Stella collapses, and the old man behind her starts talking. It is revealed that he has mind control powers. He has been controlling Basili and Stella all along to bring Silenzi to him. He then launches a submarine and places both Silenzi and Stella inside it. The villains take them out to sea. At the same time, Andrage and Giovanna arrive at the scene and meet Ivan. The building is already set to explode in a few seconds, so they quickly rescue the two kidnapped children and Basili from inside. Andrage reads Basili's mind and realizes that someone has been controlling him. They hurry away from the building just before it explodes. Back in the submarine, Silenzi discovers that he also has telekinetic powers and starts destroying the place. Using his ability, he defeats the villains and saves both himself and Stella. They finally return to the beach, where many people are already waiting. There, Silenzi turns invisible in front of everyone to show off his powers. Andrage then tells him that he must erase everyone's memories because the division will come looking for him again. Silenzi agrees, but before that, he shares one last moment with Stella. Andrade tells Silenzi that he will return someday, and leaves after Silenzi erases everyone's memories. Everything then returns to normal life. The scene shifts to a place in Russia. Silenzi's mother, who was previously believed to be dead, is actually still alive and only wounded during her encounter with the division. Apparently, she defeated the division back then and now controls it. In truth, she is the one who sent people to take Silenzi back to her. She now fights against normal humans who see them as strange. Then, a guard informs her that even though they lost Silenzi, they have found his twin sister, Natasha. A flashback reveals that Andrade actually escaped with 2 children back then. The movie ends with the officer telling her that Natasha is located somewhere in Morocco, hinting at a sequel.